completely bamboozled, those of us who use it a couple times a week. I'm just learning where the features are all over again. Here we go. Okay. Send the feed
All
whenever you're
right.
ready.
10
We're
seconds.
live.
Going to send you that feed. Have a great show.
Thank you. Wave hello, Marjorie and Mike. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Okay, let's do it. Dance with me.
Welcome to Read My Lips Radio, a lively hour of unscripted conversations with savvy creatives. Producer and host, aka Radio Red, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's aka Radio Red.
Thank you to the voice who introduces me every week. Radio Red in the house. Those of you watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, hello. I want my guests to wave furiously at our audiences. And those of you listening on the Voice America Empowerment Channel, hello. We're waving virtually to say hello to you. I was going to point out my new background. Those of you who are watching, I don't use Midjourney. I use something called Night Cafe Studio. You can find it. It's a free, yes, AI art app. And I created this background with red lipstick and red and pink bubbles and some nice curly stuff and a gray silver background and a red microphone. And then I went into Photoshop and added Read My with the lips. I love those cool conversations with creators with my name. So I'm very happy with the new background. So here we are. It is Monday again. Oh my goodness gracious. Let's see what time of the year it is. June 3rd. Welcome to June. This is the 154th day of 2024 in the Gregorian calendar. 221 days left. It's still time to get champagne or wine or get a recipe for punch for New Year's. We're not ready yet. 23rd Monday. My guests are Marjorie Hope today and Mike Hassell. And I want you both, before you say a word, put up your hand in the shape of the letter L. And we're going to do this on the count of three. Please follow along with me. We're going to say hello, L, L, L. Marjorie, hand up. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hello,
Hello.
L,
L.
L,
L.
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 Michael, my engineer, Michael Jordan used to keep track of the best in sync LLL. I think these two guests are right there in the top three. Could you please make a note, Michael, at Voice America? Thank you. I appreciate that. That was wonderful, Marjorie and Mike. I'm very, very impressed since we didn't really rehearse this. So here we are. LLL is lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener. She's been a friend of mine for God, at least 15 years. We used to dance, take a dance class and go to ballroom dances in on Long Island. And the problem is that she lives in Whitestone and it doesn't start with L. So, Mike, I took up a fake GoFundMe a while ago to raise money to move her to London because it starts with L. But Marjorie, London was too hot and too expensive. So I gave her a list of all the L major cities in the United States and she didn't like any. And then I was looking at the map about 2 years ago and I wanted to move to London. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I tilted my head. Mike, I have this bad habit of tilting my head when I look at the map. And the first N in London went upside down. Yeah, I really tilted my head a lot and it turned into a U. And I ended up moving to Loudon, Tennessee.
Wow.
Wow, so here I am. So I'm trying to get Laura to move here because it would be lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener in Loudon. And I think that would go very well. So what Laura's going to do at 6:01 p.m., I will receive an email from her and she will tell me how much she enjoyed both of you. And she will tell me what you said on the show. She'll take a little from the promo that went out today, and she will take a little bit from what she heard on the show and send me a little report. And she'll call me, hello, beautiful, gorgeous lady of red. That's what she calls me. So there we go. So welcome everybody to Read My Lips. This is my fun Monday night party. It's a round table. We're not doing interviews. We're not talking politics. Everybody is, we're not doing that here. We're talking about creativity. What motivates, what inspires my guests? What are we all thinking about? What makes us want to paint or write or create a business or write a poem or something like that? What is it that gets into our heads and our hearts that makes us want to do something that maybe has never been done before or that we've never done before or that we really enjoy doing that's different from everybody else? That's what creativity is all about. So I have a little poem to read here from about my guests, and I want to tell both of you that I do use ChatGPT, and I asked ChatGPT to write. Marjorie's tilting her head. Yes, we could go to Loudon together. I asked ChatGPT to write a poem, and I give it both of your bios. Now, full disclaimer: Sabrina Ciceri was supposed to be with us, and she was in a car accident. She's fine, and she had to cancel. So I'll get her on. If those of you saw the promo on LinkedIn, the third guest didn't show up today because she's dealing with a police report and her car being not so good right now. So we have two wonderful guests. So I'm going to read this little poem. I asked ChatGPT to write it, and I gave it, Mike, your full bio and Marjorie's full bio. How many minutes or seconds do you think it took for ChatGPT to give me back the poem? Marjorie, what do you think?
I would say 7 seconds.
Okay, Mike Hassell, what do you think?
6.
Okay, I'm going to read the poem and then I'll tell you. And then I edited it. I took a lot longer. So here we go. Welcome to Read My Lips, Cool Conversations with Creatives Radio, where passion and grace meet in the words we sow. With akaRadioRed and her Scarlett mic in hand, let's journey through the hearts where creative spirits stand. Today we explore the creative spark with I had 4, then 3, 2 bright minds who leave their mark in healing and writing and wisdom and care. Their stories and insights with you we will share. Wave hello, Marjorie Hope, with a global embrace, teaches connection across every space. From gymnastics to diplomacy's art, she unites cultures heart to heart. Her books and her nonprofits aim, bringing unity and peace in enduring flame. Marjorie, did you like that?
I love it.
I rent these poems out. I'll negotiate a rate with you. Don't worry about it. And then Mike Hassell, a thinker profound in a polarized world seeking common ground. He wrote deep trade-offs to explore the fight and helps new startups find their flight. From engineering minds to history's lore, he bridges gaps and he opens doors. Mike, what'd you think?
That's astounding.
Thank you. I'll rent it to you also. Tune in, watch, or listen. You're already here, and let your spirits soar as we explore the instincts of creativity with cool conversations and more. What do you think? Pretty cool beans? Okay.
Extremely.
And it's AI that did that.
AI did
or was
most
it mostly
of it.
you?
No,
Wow.
mostly AI. It did the shell, and then I went in and edited. I went back to your bios, and I made sure that I also put in Jenny Potter was supposed to be here. She's on a plane right now, and Sabrina Ciceri was supposed to be on. So it had all 4 bios. It was about this big, what I input, and I'll tell you how long it took. And then I took a few minutes to tweak the rhymes, the poem, make sure I picked up the pithy stuff from your bios. That's my job. So the response time for ChatGPT, just so you know, is about 2.25 seconds right now. For
Wow.
all of that. Is that something? And then I piece it together. I don't clock my own time. So
Okay.
I'm glad you liked it very, very much. By the way, is either one of you a Gemini?
Pisces.
Pisces. Okay. Well, I just want to tell you we are in Gemini now. It's the 3rd sign of the zodiac. In Babylonian astronomy, the stars Pollux and Castor were known as the Great Twins. Okay. NASA named its 2-person space capsule Project Gemini after the sign because the spacecraft could carry 2 astronauts. I didn't remember that. Geminis are playful, intellectually curious. They're constantly juggling a lot of passions, hobbies, careers, friend groups. They're social butterflies. They can talk to anyone about anything, and they buzz around at happy hours, dinner parties, dance floors. They enjoy flexibility. Otherwise, they feel trapped. Their personality cons are being impulsive and inconsistent. They make quick decisions. They hate boredom, and they may struggle to find purpose in life. Some people see them as two-faced because they stretch the truth or exaggerate if they want to impress you, and they don't cope well with repetition. And they are good tour guides, teachers, journalists, translators, event managers, nurses, salon owners. What? Hairdressers, because every client is different. Makeup artists. Yes, I'll put the lipstick here. Accountants, consultants, and project managers. And famous Geminis, Paul McCartney, Venus Williams, Angelina Jolie, Brooke Shields, Naomi Campbell, Chris Evans, Nicole Kidman. Oh my goodness gracious. Heidi Klum, Stevie Nicks, Anderson Cooper, Laverne Cox, Blake Shelton, the Olsen twins. What can I tell you? Ian McKellen, Riley Keough, who is Elvis's granddaughter, and Lenny Kravitz. That's enough here. So would you like to be an honorary Gemini, Mike Hassell or Marjorie Hope? What do you think?
Sure.
But they sound so expressive.
Doesn't it? All right, I'll make you an honorary Gemini. There you go. So now we would like to find out who the two of you really are. I'm so happy to have you here. And I met both of you at the National Publicity Summit. I've been a media guest for, I think, about 50 years. No, it wasn't around 50 years ago. About 12 or 15 years. I used to attend in person when it was at the Hotel Penn across from Penn Station in New York. And I would book 50 people in 2.5 hours. Now I do it
Wow.
virtually 3 or 4 times a year. And I get to meet lovely people like you, and you are on the clock at 2 minutes on the dot. And in that time, what do I have to do, Mike? I have to listen to your pitch. I have to tell you whether I'm interested. I have to ask you quickly for your email and your phone number, and I write it in a calendar. I offer you a date. And that's it. I barely squeak in at 2 minutes each, and I booked 38 people this time. So there you go.
Wow.
So let's go. Marjorie, we'd love to hear who you are. Tell us your origin story. Where do you get your creativity from? I'm putting you on speaker view and officially welcome to Read My Lips, Marjorie Hope.
So, hi, I'm Marjorie Hope, and I am the author of 2 books, Connect Diplomacy and Carries Gold. Now, you might say, what does that have to do with each other? But they're both connecting people, which is where my creativity comes from, because I feel the world changes every day. We're not the same people. The world's not the same. And a lot of people become fearful of change when change is the absolute best thing in our life so that we can be creative, because we are natural creative people and human beings. And so my books talk about connecting with people, one through the world, where we actually use our differences to connect with each other. One is a gymnastic children's book, Connecting Through the Olympics, which is about connecting with the world. So it's basically, we have one Earth, one planet, we all live on it, and that is our only choice right now. So we better learn to connect with each other and be creative.
Thank you, Marjorie. I want to know about you. Where do you come from? What's your education? How did you get into this? What motivated you? Well, give me the Marjorie story. We love the story about the connection. Yes, I agree with everything you said. Very, very well put, very articulate, and very compelling. Tell me who you are, Marjorie.
I grew up in Maryland. I was a gymnast, and then I went away to college to Salisbury University, which is also in Maryland. And then I moved to Florida, which is very hot. But when I moved here, I also realized that what I wanted to do was to work with people around the world. I did a lot of traveling. And every time I would travel somewhere, I was taking groups of people around the world to connect through yoga, which is the oldest and first form of movement. And what I've found in every single country is that people are people. And that is exactly how my personality came out with what I'm doing, because I realize that most people don't understand that. We are all different, but we all need to respect each other. And so I really, really have found the passion for that. I did some courses with our Harvard University and also London School of Economics in this, and found that the more we connect with each other and connect with our world, the more we actually learn about ourselves, each other. And that's where my passion came from. It's from the more you travel, which I would advise for everybody to do, the more you meet people and what the world is really all about.
Thank you, Marjorie. Pleasure to get to know you. Mike Hassell,
Thank
you're
you. And thank you
next.
for having me.
Oh, I'm delighted. Mike, talk to us. Who is the real Mike Hassell? Tell us, what's your origin story? Where'd you start? What are you doing?
Well, I was born in a little town in West Tennessee, and I grew up in Nashville. I had an uncle. I'm from a family of engineers, farm mechanics, car mechanics, things like that. One of them got educated at University of Tennessee and ended up on the team at IBM that invented the barcode scanners for retail outlets. So I basically wanted to be Bill Steele, and I went to Georgia Tech. And about 2 years into getting a degree in electrical engineering, I thought I was being trained for a profession rather than being educated more broadly, because I'm basically curious about everything: music, art, humanities, etc. But I couldn't study it at Georgia Tech. So I did some work on the role of humanities in technical education that was unlike anybody in the country, I suppose, because that's what got me into Harvard Business School. I had an interest in both sides of the coin here. And so I started my career at Procter & Gamble, Crisco Oil, marketing. Had nothing to do with electrical engineering. Met my wife there. we moved off to Boston. And so then I ended up in an entrepreneurial career, and I had an aha moment at age 40, working on audio tapes on the great ideas of history. And this was a series on moral problems of our age and things like euthanasia and, terrorism, things like that. And I realized these are not problems like I understand a problem to be as an engineer. They can't be solved. There's no equation. There's no algorithm. There's no structured decision-making process. So really the latter half of my life has been spent in entrepreneurialism and thinking about this balance of values that goes into moral conflicts. That was my conclusion, that there's not an answer. There is a struggle between two separately true things. And so this is kind of the way I see the world. It's the basis of a book that I wrote, published last year, called Deep Trade-Offs. And I find a lot of creativity in that because, one way of understanding something is to look for its opposite, and to see the conflict between them. People will ask, what's the difference between Margi and AkaRadioRed? And, complimentary question is, what's the similarities between them? So, I have a little passage in one of my books about the similarities between gasoline and white wine. They're pretty extensive, but you never think of them unless you're just asking the question. It's easy to talk about their differences, but everything has differences and similarities. And so that kind of symmetry, that parallelism is one of the engines of creativity for me.
Very, very interesting. I'm impressed with both of you. I feel like I've got a very intellectual panel here today. I just want to tell both of you a little bit about my background. Some of my listeners and viewers may not know. I'm considered an early woman in tech. I was a mainframe programmer analyst back in the day, coding in COBOL, key punching my code, Mike, and I was working on a Xerox Sigma 6 CP5 mainframe. I got 2 degrees, one in operations and one in programming, and I took over a reporting system for, for the community college division of the entire state of Oregon after 2 years. That was my first job ever in my late 20s. I was very protected growing up. Anyway, it was a fascinating time because everything was very hands-on. And I was asked to be a contract programmer for myself, Marjorie. So I had this was in Eugene, Oregon. And I had a contractor named Alan, I don't remember his last name, it was a little while ago, who would call me up and say, okay, take out a piece of paper and a ruler, draw a line across the top, draw a line down the side. These are the columns on the top. These are the rows on the side. And you're going to program this report. That's how the specs were given. I still have green bar paper with my notes on it, Mike, with my handwritten notes. And eventually we graduated to a terminal where we could input the code on a terminal. And then I went to coding in PL1 on another mainframe language on an IBM 4341. And I coded programming for the secondary schools in the whole state of Oregon at that point. And then I came back to my good old native New York and accidentally got into marketing and accidentally got into radio and accidentally got into writing English. I said, wow, I know how to write code. Can I write English too? And the answer is yes, and I can talk it pretty good too. So I think I'm on my 9th journey, but I just want to share that with you because I think you could both appreciate the journey, if you will. I know that's an overused word today about where we've all come from. And Mike, I will tell you that people say, oh, there's nothing creative about programming. You're just putting, you're using the syntax of whatever language. It's amazingly creative. Because we start with a blank page, like the tabula rasa that we are, our brains. We come out, hopefully we don't know what's exactly in there, nature, nurture, regression, whatever. But you start with a blank piece of paper, and the goal is to get to what the report's supposed to look like. And you create, you decide.
There was a short time I was president of the Slingerland Drum Company, a division of Gibson Guitar here in Nashville. It's one of my entrepreneurial ventures. Some of our best customers were doctors and lawyers and engineers, because they were kind of rutted in their career and they wanted to get out of that rut. And so they had a lot of money. They would buy lots of drums and guitars. And they're, terrific people itching to do not only numbers, but words and music as well.
Yep. Very, very interesting. Somebody's doing a webinar about Gibson. I put it down into my calendar. I saw it online somewhere, something, and I signed up for it. So thank you very much. By the way, I'm a drummer too, part-time drummer.
Wow.
Red sticks, red drums, red boots. What can I tell you, kids? And the rest is history. There we go. So what I like to do now is see, I told you it was a party, right? You can go do interviews anywhere. You come to my show, it's a party. We just talk, we share ideas. So, Marjorie, first, I have asked each of you to pick a quote from a fictional character in a movie or a TV show or a song lyric. You've already sent me, and I've done some research on it. And I want you to relate the quote. I'll read the quote in the background, and I want you to relate it to your own creativity. And let's talk about thinking outside the box and doing things that you've never done before. What makes you happy? What makes you glow? So Margie can I call you Margie? Because in your promo you sent me, or you want to be Marjorie? Who would you like to be?
Well, whatever you like. My real name is Marjorie Hope, which
Well,
most people don't realize. Margie is just my nickname.
We'll stick with Marjorie then. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the line from Ferris Bueller, played, of course, the title character by Matthew Broderick. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986 teen comedy film. Was it really that long ago, Marjorie? 24 and 14, 38 years ago. Impossible. Let's see. He's a high school slacker who skips school for one day in Chicago, takes along his friends, played by Mia Sara and Alan Ruck, and he breaks the fourth wall, talking to the audience about his techniques and his inner thoughts. Interestingly enough, John Hughes, who wrote, co-produced, and directed it, wrote the screenplay in less than 1 week. Mike, talk about creativity, right? This is his love letter to Chicago. The movie includes the then Sears Tower, Wrigley Field, Art Institute of Chicago. And he said, I wanted to capture as much of Chicago as I could, not just the architecture and landscape, but also the spirit. It was one of the top grossing films of 1986. It grossed $70.1 million on a $5.8 million budget. Wouldn't you have loved to have been an angel on that project? In 2014, the film was selected. It took a long time for preservation in the film registry. Here's the quote. We all love this one. Here we go, Marjorie. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. I said it the way I say it. I don't know how Farrah said it. Marjorie, I'm putting you on speaker view. Tell us what this has to do with your creativity, please. Go ahead.
Well, I think when I was in college, I had a lot of anxiety as to what was I going to do the rest of my life. And I had a college professor say, he goes, we're like the Renaissance man. We don't have to be one thing for the rest of our life. The Renaissance man would be a farmer, a doctor, a teacher. And I started thinking about it. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I don't have to just pick one thing. And so, I was married. I had children. I had a gymnastics school. I had, my America Connected, which is a international nonprofit. So I love the creativity in that quote, because also if you go to and visit where the movie was filmed, and you can see the different, places that he went to, you realize the creativity in everyday life. But here's the thing. We can find creativity in everything we do and anything we do. So you can walk outside, walk down a sidewalk, and that can be creative because you notice chalk paintings that a child might have made, or maybe you see a bug that got squished. I know that sounds gross, but that's creativity. So so that's why I like it, because it's something that doesn't box you in. It's saying, go out into the world and do everything you want to do.
Thank you very much, Marjorie. That's interesting. In this part of Tennessee, Mike, you'll get a kick out of this because I'm near Knoxville. You mentioned
Right.
You grew up near Nashville. Loudon is Loudon County, right outside of Farragut and Lenore City and Knoxville. We just finished Cicada-geddon. We were lucky to have the double brood emerge at the same time. The first
We
time
have it in Nashville.
Do you?
Yeah.
217 years. And it just finished a couple of days ago. And one of my neighbors came over with a broom and he swept 50 dead cicadas off my porch. They were attaching themselves to people. My lawn mowing service told me they were in their hair, they were on their mowers. Any plant, they were hitting my window in my office. I mean, banging against the window. They were going up and down the drain pipe. If you have plants on the porch or the deck, they were attaching themselves to the underside of the leaves. Somebody I know told me one flew into her mouth. And the noise, the mating call of the males, was a shrill all day long. Shrill. It sounded like a siren was going off somewhere. I can hear the birds chirping now. It's quiet outside and it's nice. So you mentioned bugs, squishing bugs. That reminded me. Okay, thank you for the quote. We love that quote. Appreciate that. Mike Hassell has picked a quote from Fred Galley, played by John Payne. This goes way back before any of us were born. I could swear to that. The movie is Miracle on 34th Street, 1947 Christmas comedy drama film. It was initially released in the UK, Mike, as The Big Heart. That was the original name, 20th Century Fox. It was based on a story by somebody named Valentine Davies, Maureen O'Hara, John Payne, Natalie Wood. Oh, she was alive then. And Edmund Gwen. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas in New York City, it was about the effect of a department store Santa Claus who claimed to be the real Santa, became a Christmas favorite. Old man Kris Kringle complained to the event director, Doris Walker at Macy's, Santa was drunk. She said, gee, you look like Santa. Why don't you play Santa? And they hired him. Yeah, and then they gave him a psychological test, and he said, I'm not playing Santa. I am Santa. And they tried to have him committed. We'll leave that one alone. So here's the quote said by Fred Galley. Look, Doris, someday you're going to find that your way of facing this realistic world just doesn't work. And when you do, don't overlook those lovely intangibles. You'll discover those are the only things that are worthwhile. Mike, how did you find this quote? Seriously, that must have been, it's a treasure. Where did you find it? Talk to me.
There's this group of about 4 or 5 movies we watch at Christmas every year. And so we had just pulled that one out. And every time I see it, it reminds me of this tension between imagination and fact. You know, as I said, I'm trained as an engineer. I'm from family of engineers, and we want to understand and, you know, get evidence and all of that kind of stuff. But as my aha moment advised me, taught me, that's not really what's most important. You know, it's love, forgiveness, hope. All of these things that are intangibles are really where we live and what brings meaning to our lives. And so if you look to the science to deliver that for you, you're going to be looking a long time. And every time I hear that quote, it reminds me, Susan and I are religiously active. And so I get a heavy dose of this there to think about the things for which there is no evidence. And it reframes, you know, even in COVID, people were saying, what does the science say? Well, there's a role for science, and there's a time to ignore the science. And in relational things, science doesn't really get as much.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you both for picking such thoughtful quotes. I appreciate that very, very much. Before we go on to the creativity statements, I want to read a poem to both of you. It's just a 2-liner. I belong to a poetry group that's sponsored by Writer's Digest. It's free, and we just signed into a place called Discuss, DISQ.us. That's the website. And in April and in November, we have a PAD challenge. That's poem a day. And I was writing between 4 and 10 poems every day during the month of April, getting up around 5 in the morning. And so were a lot of other people. We had about 50 people participating. And you post the poem, and then you have a choice to give somebody a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I've only once in a year and a half seen a thumbs down. And then we have a little space to comment. And so now we're on every Wednesday prompts, and we get a prompt early in the morning. Every Wednesday morning, I get up early before work, and it's from the moderator, who is a senior editor at Writer's Digest. His name is Robert Lee Brewer, and he gives us a prompt in this introduction for that week's poetry challenge, if you will. We're not competing. It's just what it is. It's for each of us. So this week it was write a blank like blank poem. Could be happy like a sparrow. It could be red like a rose. It could be angry like Cassius Clay, I don't know, or fly like a bee. It could be anything like that. And I usually write a limerick, and then I write a pair or 2 or 3 or 4 haikus, 5, 7, 5, you know, the number of syllables.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And those of us in the group have talked about how we've learned to count syllables in our head when we're on the grocery line. We're always writing haikus in our head. And like, is that 5 syllables? Is that a 7? And it's very, very funny. And this was an acrostic. So I took the letters of the words blank like blank and put them down the page. And then I filled a word or more for each one. And I think you're going to get a kick out of this. I haven't done this on radio, but I think you'll get a kick. And then we'll go to your statement. So, ready? So this is BLANK, LIKE, BLANK. All right, you ready? Mike, you ready? Mike,
yes.
you sitting down, Mike? I don't want you to be shocked. Okay, here we go. I'm teasing. Okay, here we go. Believe in love always. Never kiss a leprechaun in a kayak. Every boat's like a nervous kangaroo. No idea where they came from. I really don't know. And every time I read it, it makes me laugh, and I hope it made you laugh too. It's absolutely nonsensical, and I just was looking for words that would go with those letters, and that's what I came up with. So there we go. Let's move on. Thank you very much, Red. Marjorie Hope, I'm looking at your creativity statement number 1. I'm going to read it for you. You don't have to find it. Make it easy for you. And then I'd like you to take about 3 minutes and expand it. Take your time with it. And Mike Hassell, if you have anything to say to add to what Marjorie says, just give me a thumbs up or a wave or something. You can raise any of the fingers on your hands, just not the middle one. I don't respond to that. This is a nice show. Okay. By the way, I'm the green room warm-up comedian. It's a low budget show. Just want you to know. This is as good as it gets. So Marjorie Hope says, I believe creativity is not just about artistic expression, but also about problem solving, empathy, and adaptability. It's about challenging the status quo, pushing boundaries, and finding novel ways to navigate the complexities of our world. Okay, I aim to contribute to a more inclusive, peaceful, and prosperous global community. Okay, let's get away from the diplomacy and all of that and talk about your creativity. What do you do? What do you do in your spare time, Marjorie? What makes you happy? How do you create? Talk to me.
It's funny you asked that because I just had this conversation the other day with someone and they were telling me how bored they were. I said, I'm never, ever bored. At night when I'm getting ready for bed, I have like a little deck outside my bedroom and I go out and I look at the stars and the moon and I see planets and it's amazing. And I also play this game like, look what the clouds and the moon brought me tonight. And I take pictures with my phone and it's so extraordinary and so creative as far as our world. And then, I have a lot of hobbies. So I work out every day. I collect dolls. I love everything I do in my life. I love my work. I love my children. I love my pets. So it's more faith over fear. That's how I do my life. And if I stopped, and we think about this, when a child is like 1 or 2 years old and they're learning how to walk, they don't say to themselves, I'm going to fall. I'm going to stumble. They just get up and try again. And I guess I didn't get the memo because I just get up and keep trying and I just have fun with it. That would be my answer. I just have fun with it.
I love that. Mike, I think wants to say something, but Marjorie, what kind of dolls do you collect?
I collect all sorts of dolls. I have a collection of very old antique dolls that were my grandmother's. I collect Amish dolls. I have a whole schoolhouse setting. I collect big baby dolls, Barbie dolls. I have lots of collections, and my house isn't big enough for all my collections. So unfortunately, some of them are in my closet, but it's
Thank you. That's
I love
interesting.
it.
Did you ever hear of a Ginny doll? I had a Ginny doll, not a Barbie doll when I
I
was
have
growing
heard
up.
of that. Yes.
Yeah, she was a little blonde doll and her parts moved. And all I know is I used to make ponytails out of her long hair. And I don't know if I had Barbies or not, but Ginny doll with a G. Thank you very much. Interesting. Mike, any comments before I read one of yours? What do you think?
Yes, I love this way of thinking. And three things come to mind. One is when my daughter was 5 or 6, she came to me one day and said, I'm bored. And I said, well, to me, that tells me you're boring.
I've heard that.
Because what I'm hearing from Marjorie is it's about attention and interest, and
Right.
you can be thrilled all the time if you have enough
Right.
interest in what's going on. My son is a musician, and I took him to a songwriters festival here one time, and they were interviewing a songwriter about writer's block and said, what do you do? And she said, I go out and live more life.
Right.
Basically, just go pay attention to what's going on. And there's a bunch of stories about how songs are written by just somebody that hears a turn of phrase. And the third thing that comes to mind is when I was in this publishing business on the great ideas of history that I alluded to earlier, we did a series on science, and one of them was about complexity and chaos. And the author made the point that life thrives on the border between stability and disturbance. We need enough disturbance, enough change to be exciting. We need enough stability to not come unglued. And I think there's math behind this, that life thrives best when there's not too much of either.
Very interesting. Thank you. I like to have my guests spark ideas in each other, and that's why we do the roundtable format. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read one of Mike's statements now, and let's see where it takes us. Mike, this is statement number 2 you sent. You say, beyond the rare and enormously gratifying aha moments, my creativity thrives more typically in puzzlement. After I've said, that's funny. Okay, Mike, you got to unpack that for us, please. What do you mean?
Well, I gave one example where I was thinking about moral problems and really struggling with them. I didn't have the tools to resolve them. What's the science that's going to give me the answer so I can persuade other people what the right answer is? It's not available. It's the aha moment for me, or the that's funny was that's not a problem as I understand it. I need to rethink what we mean by a problem. And so, if you ever see that legalese that says, do not fold, spindle, mutilate, these all these versions of the same word that they're trying to eliminate ambiguity. There's all kinds of ambiguity in language, and we may rethink, what is creativity? What is a microphone? What is a Marjorie? Right? And that's funny, basically, are moments where we have to reevaluate what we've already come to believe. And one of the great truths I've discovered in this whole business of symmetry and value conflict is that convictions are our enemies. They're the things that tell us the way things are, and they close our minds to the way things may be that we haven't thought about.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Looking at things from another angle. Marjorie, go ahead, please join us.
Yeah, I love that, what you just said, Mike. And one of the things I found is movement. So when you come to that situation where you're like, gosh, I don't know the answer, or I'm feeling anxious, or what am I going to do? I know it sounds funny, but any kind of movement, whether it just be twirling in your room, maybe you don't want to twirl, but walking, jumping, any kind of movement. And what it does is it creates your brain and the brain cells to kind of regenerate, and the answer will come out. And it's sometimes if you just have even just a hot cup of tea, coffee, hot beverage, and you do 3 deep breaths in and out, inhale and exhale, it's the same thing as movement. You're moving around those brain cells and the answer will just pop out. It's really cool.
Interesting. Did either one of you ever have the experience of trying to solve a math problem or a science problem when you were in school, junior high school? We used to call it junior high. Now it's middle school or high school. And it came to you in the middle of the night. Did you ever have that? Because I did many times. And I think I kept a pencil and a pad of paper next to my bed because I would solve a math problem while I was sleeping. Mike, did you ever have that experience?
It happens to me still, and it's usually not math because I'm not doing math, but I'll be thinking about something, and the next morning I'll wake up with 2 or 3 ideas about what to do about it.
Isn't that interesting? So that
Yeah.
we're always working and thinking. I assume you're both type A like I am. Am I
Yes.
correct in that?
I have
I
a
think
sixth
so.
sense too about things. So things pop into my head that are things that will happen after I've already thought about it. So it's kind of interesting.
I've been having experiences recently where I'll wake up with a thought about, or I'll go to sleep with something that's troubling me. And I'll say something is going to happen in the next
Right.
day, in the next 24
Right.
hours with a certain person or with a certain scenario. But I've been wrong about the details, but right about the
Right.
person it's attached to. Isn't that
That's
funny?
right.
Something happened and I said, this person is going to be talking to that person or that. I had the gender right, but the wrong person. I knew something was not going to happen that was positive for me, but it was with the same people, but it was something else the same day. And
We-
this has happened twice. What do you think, Marjorie? Very strange. Marjorie froze.
We all,
Oh,
we
they
all
are.
have that.
Okay.
And it doesn't consciously make sense.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I want to go to one of Mike. Thanks for that statement. I want to go to one of your statements, Marjorie. I think you just alluded to it, but I'd like you to go in a little more. You say during my downtime, I engage in physical activities each day. My one a day: weightlifting, yoga, Pilates, swimming, cardio. I believe movement, which you already said, serves as a
Right.
reset. So, as a former gymnast, I strongly advocate the connection between a healthy mind and a body, referring to the practice as the reset. I indulge in clouding and you put it all capital letters and capture breathtaking pictures of the sky, a significant hobby. Can you just give us a little more detail? I think you already covered it a little bit, Marjorie, but I was fascinated by that. Go ahead.
About clouding or in general?
Reset and clouding, both of them.
Oh, okay. So a lot of times people don't understand the concept of reset, but what we do throughout our day can be complex. It can be overstimulating. It can be anxiety ridden. And what you have to do is think back to when you were a child. You had that reset all day long. You went to recess. You played with your friends. You ran home. Or walked to school. But you had activities. There was always something active you were doing. Our brain has to reset through play. And play is something that's like a dirty word as an adult, but think back to it. What day did someone say to you is your last day to play? Because we all played as children. It never has to stop. It might change the form of play. You may not do mud pies like you did when you were 3 years old, but you still need, as an adult, to play. And that play is what resets us in our life every single day.
I like that. Mike, what do you think about resetting? Do you do that in any form?
Well, the elephant in the room for what I think we've been talking about for a few minutes is the subconscious, and so I think a lot of the processes we're talking about are things that are going on that we're not aware of. There's just this fantastic book called Thinking Fast and Slow by an economist who just died about a month ago, Robert Kahneman. He's Nobel Prize winning, but it's about the anatomy of the brain, the forebrain that thinks and the base brain that intuits. And it's just fantastic. It's been compared to The Wealth of Nations, what that was for economics by Adam Smith. This is for psychology. There's another psychologist that I just love named Haidt, Jonathan Haidt, Haidt, and he has a metaphor for this. He said the subconscious and the forebrain is like an elephant with a rider, and the elephant is the subconscious, and the rider can direct it to go sometimes here or there, but pretty much subconscious is going to go where it wants, and it's about 80% of our mental activity. So, resetting and breathing and physical activity, I think, are all ways of influencing our subconscious.
Well put. Mike, do you have hobbies? What do you do when you're not thinking at a very high, cogent intellectual level? Paint, you draw, do you sing, do you dance?
I play piano. I studied piano for 10 years.
Tell us a little bit about that, please.
So, I studied with a neighborhood teacher for a while. My mother loved Rhapsody in Blue, and I was bored. I wanted to play pop songs like Let It Be, what I was hearing on the radio. Did that for a couple of years, got bored with that. And my mom said, why don't you play Rhapsody in Blue? So I got a reduction of it, and 4-page reduction. I learned it in about 2 weeks. And so my teacher and I decided to get the real thing. And I studied that for 6 months and played it. So after that, I spent 2 years at Vanderbilt's School of Music, basically.
Oh, wow.
And, played Chopin and Beethoven and Rachmaninoff and things like that, and Scott Joplin. And I'm a little bit out of practice, but I have a really nice piano. And if I were to practice more, I could play it really well.
I'm impressed. That's a very complex piece of music, isn't it? Rhapsody in Blue.
Yes.
Beautiful. Wow. Have you recorded yourself playing it when you were doing it years ago, I guess?
I don't recall any recordings of myself playing. I probably should do that. Claire de Lune is the one I play the best that would be recordable at this point.
Why not? Thank you. I threw that at you because it wasn't in your notes to me, and I wanted to know. I do have one of your statements you sent me, Mike. So let's go to statement number 3. You say the urge to get it right, I'm putting the air quotes around it, never ends, as there is always something new to wonder and cogitate about, some newly apparent tension to balance. Interesting. Talk to me about how that leads to your creativity, Mike.
Well, as I mentioned, I have begun to see things in terms of symmetry. The thing that I focus on in writing about it is how we learn to respect other people that have a different value that is in competition with the one we share. It's not that they hate what we love. It's that they have a different priority and a different experience. And I think if we were more sensitive to that, we could get along a lot better by understanding where people are coming from. So a lot of that is being alive to new definitions, new understandings. I may be talking about a leg in the way somebody else means a different part of the leg. There's that famous Indian metaphor about the guys trying to describe the elephant. One describes the trunk, one describes the rear leg, one describes the tail, one describes the tusk. They all think they're describing the elephant, but they don't realize they're just talking about different parts of a bigger truth. So the quote that the statement that you read really is my way of saying that keep looking for what part of the picture is beyond my frame that I just haven't realized yet, that maybe somebody else understands better, and I should agree more with them, and vice versa.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. I'm going to read a poem, another poem to both of you, if I may. Okay. This was a couple of weeks ago in May, and the theme, the prompt was bittersweet. I think you'll enjoy this. Okay. It's a haiku. It's a pair of haikus. I'll read it slowly. I titled it in French, La Douce Amère, which is bittersweet. Okay. Douce amère, sweet, sweet, bitter. Life is like a box. Forrest's mama said it well. Chocolates pick you. Life's a filling game. Bittersweet days can have sun. Godiva's horse knew. I
You
tend to.
wrote that?
I wrote
Did you
that.
write that?
Yeah, I wrote that.
Oh,
Like it?
Where,
I
yeah, I
like
do.
it.
Where does it come from? Does it come out of the ether?
Comes out of the ether. I just sit down and I write a limerick. I write 2 or 3 haikus, and then I write an acrostic. The acrostic I wrote that week was bittersweet, beginning intentions, tested trust, expectations. I'm sorry, beginning intentions, tested trust, expectations, reality surprises love, endless exceptions through. A little bit of a twist
Wow.
in there. And then I
Wow.
wrote this one. This is just a regular one. Life is like, listen to this. Life is a taste test, like chocolate. Sweet for joy, bitter for truth, nutty for whimsy, solid for trust, creamy for yearning, juicy for lust. Pick one, anticipate. Don't be afraid, whatever you get. Flavors of life all count. Savor yours.
Well, I
You
like that.
You like that one, Mike, too?
I really do. And I've heard that both James Taylor and Mozart said they just were the first ones to get to hear the songs that came into their head. It just came to them like the way you described. And, that's a different way of creativity than I have. Mine's a little more analytical and, definitional and stuff like that. And I wish I could improvise on the piano. I play what's been written on the page and I can express it pretty well, but I can't sit down and play my own music out of my own head.
Well, I'll tell you,
Me-
Wednesday mornings when I get up early and I look to see what time Robert Lee Brewer posted the prompt, and I don't want to be the first one on the page because that way my poems sink to the bottom and nobody will see them because there might be 20, 30, 40, 50 poems on top, and it could take an hour to go through and comment on everybody's. But I look at the prompt, and he writes a sample poem, which has nothing to do with what I'm going to do or anybody. And then I go to my format for my limerick and I write my limerick, and then I go to my haiku, and I go to my haiku, and then I write an acrostic, and then I just do free form. And it's so liberating. It's so lovely. And on average, I write between 4 and 6 poems every Wednesday. But the poem a day, I was writing between 6 and 10 and posting them. And it developed this little community. By the way, 4 of the poets are coming on this show on August 5th. I booked them to come on and read their poetry, and some of them have made books out of their poetry with accompanying photographs and artwork. And I'm a painter as well. So I'm thinking of taking maybe 25 of my poems and adding my photographs, not my photographs, photographs of my artwork and putting them into a little book. So that would be a lot of fun. So I enjoyed the creativity statements you gave. One more, Marjorie, I just want to say, in sync with what Mike was talking about, you talk about embracing diverse perspectives to find common ground and build bridges between individuals and nations. And I know that's your ethos, that's what you stand for. And I think Mike was talking
Right.
about the same thing. So we have about 6 minutes left, and I want to read some fun stuff, and then we'll do a wrap up. So listen up. I have researched for us. I'm going through the guests who didn't show up. I hope Jenny's okay, and I hope Sabrina's okay. By the way, I have a couple of quotes for you. Here's one from Rapunzel, voiced by Mandy Moore in the movie Tangled, 2010 American 3D computer animated musical adventure fantasy comedy film. That's a heck of a lot of genres to string together. Here you go. Venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it. What'd you think, Mike and Marjorie? Is that cool?
That's what
I
we've
have
been saying.
That's right. I have another one from the Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want, but if you try, you'll get what you need. They said it. And then one more
100%.
from Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, played by Billy Burke, 1939, The Wizard of Oz. You had the power all along, my dear. Isn't that true? Aren't these lovely, lovely quotes? So here we go. June 3rd, music history. Susie Quattro was born today in 1950. If you don't know who she was, she played Leather Tuscadero on TV's Happy Days. She was a singer in England. Today in 1967, listen to this line. It was the 3rd of June, another sleepy, dusty Delta day. That's never been solved. Billy Joe McAllister jumped off the Tallahatchie Bridge. The song was Bobby Gentry, the Ode to Billy Joe. Today is the 3rd of June. And somebody posted on one of the social networks. They still haven't solved that. On this same day in 67, Aretha Franklin's Respect hit #1. It was first recorded 2 years earlier by Otis Redding, only got to number 35. On the same day in 67, The Doors released a truncated single of Light My Fire, trimming it from the album 6 minutes and 50 seconds to a radio-friendly version of 2 minutes and 52. It went to #1 and became their most famous song, Light My Fire. 3 years later, on 1970, on this day, the BBC refused to air the Kinks' new single, Lola. You know why? Either one of you? No? Okay, because
It's
it
a
mentioned
boy and a
Coca-Cola.
girl, right? Boy
Nope.
thinks he's a girl.
Nope. It mentioned Coca-Cola.
Ah,
Brand names were a no-no. Coca-Cola didn't want brand names to be included. So Ray Davies flew the lead singer from London to New York and recorded the line again as where you drink champagne and it tastes just like cherry cola. And they were able to release the song.
That's funny.
On this day in 1972, the Staple Singers, I'll Take You There, is #1, transitioning from gospel to secular music. On this day in 91, to pay off his taxes, Willie Nelson released Who'll Buy My Memories, the IRS tapes. And he sold it by mail order at 800 IRS TAPE as part of a deal with the IRS. He had a $32 million tax bill.
Oh my God.
On this day in 92, Bill Clinton played saxophone on Arsenio. He was campaigning for president. He made a whistle stop on the Arsenio Hall show. I'm looking at my clock here. He played the Elvis Presley hit Heartbreak Hotel on the sax. It was the definitive moment where he captured the trust and support of the young voters with his charisma. Interesting. On this day in 2002, Paul McCartney and Aretha Franklin performed at Queen Elizabeth II's Golden Jubilee, celebrating the 50th year of her reign. On this day in 2003, Barry Manilow walked into a wall at his house, knocked himself out, broke his nose, passed out for 4 hours, and they didn't even need surgery. His nose was okay. I don't understand that at all. In 2005, Shakira released a Spanish language portion of her double album project, Oral Fixation. We won't go there, blah, blah, blah. On this day in 2006, at the Rock am Ring Festival in Nürburgring, Germany, Metallica performed their classic album, Master of Puppets, in its entirety for the first time ever. And in 2019, on this day, Jay-Z was announced as Forbes' first billionaire rapper.
Wow.
$310 million of his fortune was from his stake in Armand de Brignac champagne. I thought that was cute. Today is First Lady Jill Biden's 73rd birthday. Happy birthday. I know she's not in a very happy place today, but did you know that Jill Biden was a waitress at the Jersey Shore before she enrolled in junior college in Pennsylvania to study fashion merchandising? Isn't that interesting? Today is Anderson Cooper's birthday, 57. Happy birthday. And today, one of my idols, Rafa Nadal, the tennis player, is all of 38 years old. Be still my heart. Grand Slam tennis champ, won 14 French Opens, Wimbledon in 2008 and 2010, Australia Open in 2009, and US Open in 10, 13, and 17. And he had to quit football in high school because his parents said he needed to do his homework. There we go. Okay, today I have 3 birthdays of social media stars. I got a minute and a half here. On TikTok, Zoe Laverne is 23. Say happy birthday, Zoe Laverne. Mike and Marjorie, you have no idea why. She has 22 million fans. 22 million. Mike, you're still sitting down. Good. She does lip sync, dance, and comedy videos, and she answers fans' questions. On Instagram, she posts family pictures. Also on TikTok, Chip Girl Here, one word. She's 32. She has 4.9 million fans, but she has 249 million likes.
Wow.
I can't even. Lifestyle content, comedic family posting. She had 5 wedding gowns for her wedding. The video went viral. Her husband built a doghouse that was a replica of their house. Her wedding dress, one was inspired by Ariana Grande's video wedding. Never mind. On YouTube, Jonah Kitty's mama 22 today. He only has 2.2 million subscribers. He's one of the 4 sibling stars of the Kitty's Mama YouTube channel, and his Instagram has only 90,000 followers. What can I tell you?
Wow.
And he was on YouTube at 2008 at the age of 6. Okay, holidays. Insect Repellent Awareness Day, Love Conquers All Day, National Carl Day. Hello, wherever you are named Carl. Chocolate Macaroon Day, Egg Day, World Bicycle Day, Cider Day, Food Safety Week. I've got a minute. And National Automotive Service Professionals Week. June is the month of microchipping your pets, accordion awareness. Are you aware of accordions, Mike? Adopt a Cat Month, Audiobook Month, Beautiful in Your Skin Month. Yes, we know that, don't we, Marjorie? Camping Month, DJ Month, Entrepreneurs Do-It-Yourself Marketing, Fireworks Safety, Foster a Pet, Give a Bunch of Balloons Month. I'll give you virtual balloons. Home Ownership Month, Surf Music Month, Oceans and River Month, National Rose Month, Women's Golf Month. Okay, here we go. We're going to close now. All right, stick around afterwards. I will tell you in 2014, my closing on my radio shows was top 10 tips for women in 2014. And the first one, Mike, don't get offended. Marjorie's going to love this. The first one was aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. That was in 2014. So here's my closing, and wave when you're going to laugh with me. Life is short. Break the rules. Forgive quickly. Kiss slowly. Mwah. Love truly. Laugh uncontrollably. 1, 2, 3. Laugh with me, Marjorie and Mike. Great. And never, ever regret anything that made you smile. Work like you don't need the money. Dance like no one's watching. When I taught disco and high heels, they watch. Sing like nobody's listening. Love like you never been hurt. Get over it. Money talks. Chocolate sings. La. And last but not least, thank you for turning me on. I stole that line. Wave goodbye to Read My Lips audience. Michael, my engineer, tell us when we're out, and I will stick around with my guests. Michael?
We are out.
Thank you very much.